Okay, now that we're in Twinmotion, one of the things that we need to remember to do every time is just to come down here, go to Quality Setup, find under Settings, the direct link, and make sure once again that this is saving somewhere inside of our OneDrive folders. That'll keep things working smoothly as we advance here in the project. Now let me give you just an idea of how to navigate inside of Twinmotion. First of all, you can see you've got menus on the left and menus on the right. There's something going on at the top and at the bottom. These can all be turned on and off just by using whatever buttons are available to you here. Let's see if I can get those all turned off on the left. It gives me a little more space to work on the screen. And the same thing can happen over here. I can turn off properties, I can turn off the scene, and there's another way that you can get in here. You can actually just maximize the viewport so that all you see is the work environment, and then you can exit out of that by clicking here again. So sometimes I do one, sometimes I do the other. Oftentimes I like to just turn off maybe one of the menus on either the left or the right so that I can still have something to work from here. This menu is actually quite useful. This one is called Scene, and everything inside the environment can be found in this list. So when I just clicked here, you can see it highlighted the starting ground. I can turn that on and off. The landscape is whatever's in the background, the starting base, and then there's something inside the folder for starting base. So there's that cylinder and the sphere. When you bring something over from Revit, all of it will show up in this list. So even though right now it looks really small, this list will be massive when you bring in a Revit project, and it's nice to be able to find things either through the search or just by adding new things and putting them in folders where everything stays organized. So I use this one a lot. And then obviously properties is something that quite often you're going to want to see if you want to make any kind of a modification. So for example, when I select here, if there were any important properties associated with that sphere, it would show up here. And oftentimes when I'm using tools, then I can see the settings for those tools over here in the properties. We can go ahead and demonstrate that by reopening the library. I'll take vegetation, trees. I'll just grab a tree and put it in here. And you can see that the properties for this tree show that we can change its size, we can adjust its season. Anything else here that you want to play around with that's available in details can be adjusted. So you can see how effective properties can be. And like I said, I have the ability to turn it on and off, but also I can keep it there and move it to the left-hand side of the first menu, giving myself the ability to see more in both of these boxes. If I did that, I probably would want to make sure to turn off the left-hand side because I can't see enough of my viewport anymore. And these can, of course, be adjusted. But this is just incredibly helpful. There are times where I need to see both of these, and I need the entire menu because there's just too much information to be working on them when they're stacked. You can always put it back in a stacked formation, and of course you can always shrink that down a little bit. So there are many things that you can do to sort of customize your environment and your experience. And the other options, view sets I haven't used yet. XYZ is just an object's positioning within the environment, so I don't really use that much either. But I do use these down here, and I mainly use them for materials and populate when it's time to actually create an image that you want to render. Then you're going to start using media, or if you want to do a video, then you'll use media. So for right now, we'll just ignore that one, and I'll let you see that materials can be placed down here, and then this becomes sort of an active library of things that you want to apply. Anything that's actually assigned inside the project would show up down here. So this one gets used quite often too, and I guess we might as well demonstrate that if we go back to our library, which includes all kinds of things. It's all inclusive. Everything is right here. So objects that you would want to place, they show up by category. Materials that you would want to assign, they show up by category. Even some of the tools like reflection globes, and if you want to create a section or measure things, it's all included over here. So it kind of makes makes it feel like the menu is very condensed and it's easy to find and navigate. It's easy to find it really anything because you've got the search option right here. So if I open up materials and let's say we want this little base to be a wooden material. Oh, I guess it wants to do the entire floor or ground. Yeah, and the reason that it's doing that is because this has a material that's assigned to it, and so does this. And so when you replace one object that has a material assignment, it's just going to replace the entire material no matter where it's assigned. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way it's going to default. So if I didn't want that, then I would say I'd have to choose apply to object from this menu here instead of replace the material. So I can go apply to object, and then I can just put a wood floor on that little starting base. And now when I open up materials, you can see that that's going to show up inside my library here. And yeah, again, it's very, very intuitive. Okay, let's just talk briefly now about how am I moving around. And to move around, there is a little menu up here that's going to help you. This is what is this thing called? This is called your navigation bar. And you can turn it on or turn it off over here, or hide it or show it. But it's just telling you that we're going to use WASD for forward, back, left, right. Q and E will take you up and down. You can adjust the speed. You just push a number on your keyboard. If I want to go really fast, hold down 6, and then I'm going to push D to move here to the right, and you can see it goes really fast. Something I'm going to point out in case you were to get lost, which I'm not because I can still see my objects over here, but let's just say you move really quickly and you end up feeling like, gosh, I don't know where I'm at anymore, and I'm lost, and I can't find my house. All you need to do is go find something over here in your scene, in this list. So I can go to that cylinder, for example, select it, and then there may be a shortcut to this over here, but no, I'm just going to use the shortcut on my keyboard. Sorry, I got on a little tangent there. Select the cylinder or the sphere, and then just push F. And that brings it front and center. It just expands it to your view. And you can do that with any object. So if you get lost because you're using the speed 6, that's all you need to do. I'm going to go with the speed 4 and just show you that that's a much more comfortable speed. For some reason, when you go from 5 to 6, it's an enormous jump. All the other numbers, they seem to be consistently incremental, but from 5 to 6 is just kind of outrageous. So this is me using my forward and back, W and S. And yes, you can actually use arrow keys if you prefer to do it that way. Arrow keys will do the very same thing as the WASD. And I believe that, I was going to say you can even go up and down on the keyboard, but that's not true. So let me go back to a better speed. You can't go up and down on your number pad. You can only go up and down with the Q and the E. Okay, and then the mouse buttons over here show you that you can look around with the right click, or you can just orbit around with the left click. And then if you hold down the wheel, then you're going to pan, but if you scroll, then that's going to be a zoom. Okay, and you could change all of these presets. If you're more familiar with another program that's very similar, then you can just use whatever the presets are for that other program. You know, for example, Lumion. I don't know if Lumion shows up in this list, but Lumion uses Q and E, only it's reversed, so that Q makes you go down and E makes you go up. So if you're so accustomed to doing things a different way, then just customize it somewhere over here. I think there is actually an option to customize. And you can even, right here, hide this panel, which I wouldn't recommend until you get more familiar with that. Okay, so I think that's all that I need to cover in this video. We'll cover some of the additional stuff in other videos.